Once again, I welcome you to Monday Night in Prophecy, a program that has been going on for over 20 years, and I feel like the watchman on the tower who looks out for what lies in the future, and then I go and report it to you that you too can see it. And as always, we start off with what does the Bible teach? And there are many signs, some 400 signs of the second coming of Christ. And a man by the name of Jonathan Brenter put together 12 signs the world is running out of normal. And so that's what I want to present. I thought it was very good. And you'll recognize the first few, and then it gets more and more hard to even follow of what the future holds. So let's get right into it, and those are the 12 signs of the world is running out of normal. Number 1, Israel's miraculous rebirth as a nation. We all know that, 1948, and that is the super sign, as I call it. This is what it says. Did you know that Isaac Newton predicted that Israel would reappear as a nation? Based on his in-depth study of the book of Daniel and Revelation, he made that startling prediction over 250 years before it happened. This man had an incredible insight. He read the Bible. He says, the state of Israel must come to be before the end of the world. And that's 250 years before 1948. On May 14, 1948, Israel miraculously became a nation again. The amazing rebirth of Israel fulfilled the words of Isaiah 66:8, which predicted that it would happen in a day. Only God could resurrect a nation that had not existed for 2,000 years, supernaturally, protect it amid countless wars, and bring it to a place of prosperity such as Israel enjoys today. Wow, it's the super sign. That's all I can say to that. Number 2, the third temple fever. Scripture tells us that the antichrist will defile a still future Jewish temple. In Daniel 9:27, in Matthew 24:15, in 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3 and 4, in a recent article, The Biblical Necessity of a Third Jewish Temple says, the building of the third Jewish temple is a necessity for the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. And that is true. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has spent over 30 years researching and preparing furnishings for the third temple. They are currently training Levites to serve as priests in it. The Israeli government is planning infrastructure for the coming temple, which includes a train that will run from the Ben Gurion Airport to the Temple Mount, as they expect many visitors that will want to visit the new temple. Israel plans to complete this rail system in 2023. So right around this time, it will be completed. And that exits right at the Temple Mount. Isn't that amazing? Let's go on to number 3. Kicking and ready. How close the world is to the conditions described in Revelation 6 verse 1 through 8. These verses describe what's commonly referred to as the 4 riders of the apocalypse. They're kicking in their stall. It's a neat way of saying it, isn't it? Kicking in the stall, ready to start their trek across the planet. Revelation 6:8 says that the death toll from the chaos caused by these riders will total 1/4 of the world's population, which today would be 2 billion people. Imagine that, 2 billion people die throughout that beginning phase of the 7-year tribulation. Number 4. Now it gets really eerie of what's happening, and we are seeing the beginning of that. Number 4 is digital currency. If people can buy and sell goods on a cash basis, it would be impossible for the Antichrist to control commerce in the way that Revelation 13 verse 16 through 18 predicts, which talks about the mark of the beast. The fulfillment of this prophecy requires the elimination of cash, and that is precisely what we see in our world. Quote, I believe the new central bank digital currency, or CBDCs, will make their debut in 2023. Whoa, that's this year. This digital currency will tie in directly with the digital health certificates on people's cell phones in what will become a personal dossier on every individual, tracking and monitoring their movements and behaviors. So it isn't so much about their health. It has to do with their traveling and their movements, their behaviors. That's what is gonna be controlled. I'm not so sure about 2023, maybe it'll be 2024, but that's pretty close, I would say. Let's go on to 5, another one of those. Digital health passports. At the November 2022 meeting of the G20 nations in Indonesia, leaders of the largest economies in the world agreed to work together to implement a digital health passport that will begin by tracking everyone's vaccine status and expand from there. And that's the important part, expand. What else is in it? This is also an absolute necessity for what the antichrist has planned for the latter half of the tribulation. His system must instantly recognize whether one truly has his mark on them, and it will. So that's what that passport is all about. It's not a paper passport or cardboard, it's in your phone, it's digital, and everybody will have to have it. Below is the path that elite power brokers of our world have laid out for the future. So that's what they laid out. Here's what's going to happen. Eliminate cash through a worldwide digital currency. Okay, we had covered that. Combine one's online identity for banking with a digital health passport. Your banking, all your finances. Next, monitor all spending, which is simple with the coming central bank digital currency. Every dime you spend on that is recorded. Next, reward or punish people based on their spending habits. Oh, there's going to be rewards and punishment. And by the way, China has already some of that right now. Next, total control of all spending, and implement what we refer to as the mark of the beast. Great. Now, the good news is we won't be around for that because that's halfway through the tribulation period. Number 6, mark of the beast technology. Artificial intelligence, AI technology, along with the development of gigantic computer databases, also makes today unique from any other previous time in history. That's true. Prior to these technical advances of the past dozen years or so, the Antichrist would have needed an exceedingly large number of people in every nation on earth in order to enforce that requirement of his mark for all buying and selling. It would have been impossible. But the computers take care of that. Now, with the recent advances in AI and the 5G global network, the technology exists for one person to set the parameters and thus control commerce everywhere in the world. These technical innovations not only make the fulfillment of Revelation 13, 16 through 18 possible, but also increasingly likely when one considers the agenda of the globalists. So the globalists that exist even today already talk about that, predict that. That's what we need, and so it will happen. Number 7, is it really human? How will the coming man of lawlessness exercise the complete control over the earth's population, such as we see in Revelation 13 and elsewhere in Scripture? The answer is transhumanism. Transhumanism is the combination of humans with machines, and it's not only something that the Antichrist needs, but it's also a high priority of the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and all the many nations that are now committed to its great reset. It is coming. Transhumanism, where chips are implanted in you. Did you know that Joe Biden recently signed an executive order requiring Americans to comply with the push for transhumanism? Yes, we will comply. And we will have a very attractive chip that they want to implant in our bodies. Number 8, the soon arrival of one world governance. The books of Daniel and Revelation predict that in the last days a worldwide government will exist, and that for a short time the antichrist will rule over it. And there's plenty of proof in Daniel and the book of Revelation on it. The UN's Agenda 2030 is all about establishing a global governance by 2030, if not well before that year. The Great Reset of the World Economic Forum, the WEF, also known as Build Back Better, is the economic companion of Agenda 2030, and both groups have united in the push to establish a one world government. The rapidly forming one world government only remains a secret to those who don't want to believe that it is happening, because it's happening. Number 9, the worship of creation rather than the creator. Did you notice that? What's happening? In the book of Revelation, we see the presence of a one world religion under the leadership of the false prophet. Do we see the rise of such a unified religion today? Absolutely. The stage is fully prepared. In November 2022, religious leaders from all over the world reenacted the giving of the 10 Commandments. However, the top 10 things on their minds consisted of worshipping nature, that of preserving their God. Combating climate change has become the religion, bringing together many diverse faiths as they worship the creation rather than the creator. It's happening. Number 10, when the world wobbles. That's a strange one. Since 2001, the Earth's magnetic North Pole has been moving. An article on the Forbes Magazine website, Earth's magnetic North Pole is shifting dramatically from a powerful tug of war, discussed how this shift has sped up in recent years. So apparently it is already moving, a tug of war is there. Why do I include this as a list of 12 signs? It's because of warnings of what happened when the pole shifts may reach 40 degrees. That's the point at which the North and South Pole will swap places. What? What's so significant about it? The Bible tells us that during the tribulation period the world will wobble. Isaiah 24:19-20, Revelation 6:12-17. I find it more than a little curious that what many predict will happen at that time of the pole shift, it matches what these prophetic passages say will happen during the day of the Lord. It's much more than coincidence. Number 11. You don't really believe that, do you? 2 Peter 3:2-4 says that scoffers will arise in the last days that will mock our hope in Jesus' soon return. Jude 17:18 also warns of scoffers that will come in the last days that will ridicule our hope. This time has surely arrived. Not kidding. It's commonplace today for people to mock our hope in Jesus soon appearing. Sadly, even believers and leaders of churches have also joined the chorus of naysayers. Such mocking is all about Satan's deceiving people into believing that there's no such event as Jesus appearing to take his church to glory. Don't fall for his lie. He is coming back, brothers and sisters. There's no question about it. And finally, number 12, perilous times on steroids are here. We live during a time of perilous times and on steroids. While the characteristics of this that Paul lists in 2 Timothy 3, verse 1-5 have always been evident, in some ways, since the time he wrote, they now define our world just as the apostle said it would in the last days. More than at any previous time, we see these 12 characteristics abounding throughout the world. Running out of the old normal means that Jesus' glorious new normal is ever so close. I like that. Jesus' glorious new normal is ever so close. Just as with King Belshazzar of Babylon, the handwriting is on the wall, according to Daniel 5. Perhaps the end will not come as swift as it did for this ancient king. The Medes and Persians killed him just hours after Daniel interpreted God's message. The signs, however, reveal that God's judgment will soon fall on this world. After the rapture of the church, God's wrath will devastate the world. When Jesus returns and reigns over the earth from Jerusalem, we will experience life in a glorious kingdom as we reign with him for 1,000 years. This will be a new normal worth celebrating, and we surely will. But the future is even brighter and more joyous. Revelation 21 and 22 describes the most blissful set of circumstances imaginable. And so on this picture you see Jesus the King as he comes back to earth, as he destroys the enemy, as he sets up the 1,000-year reign, and from Jerusalem in the next temple, actually not the next, but the next after the next, the 1,000-year kingdom temple. He will reign from that temple the entire world. That will be a joyous event for us as Christians. And that ends part 1 of our study for tonight.